These phones are pretty small, but not nearly as small as the real compact OG flagship, Google's Pixel 5. Just look at how these two compact phones absolutely dwarf the 5, not only in footprint, but in side profile and in weight. Oh, and how do you like your camera bump? Non-existent? Well then sorry my friend, because what Google is offering right now isn't a compact flagship, but instead an absolute beast. The reality is that in 2024, we just have to deal with these bigger phones. They're necessary for the bigger cooling solutions, the brighter displays, way bigger batteries, and of course the incredibly complex camera systems that we expect in our expensive phones these days. Google has done its best this year to pack as many pro features into its smaller phone as possible. But is there really any value in having a compact flagship smartphone? What meaningful upgrades are you getting by going pro if you're not a phablet user? Today we're going to be talking about that and looking at the pro features in this year's phone, how they compare to the smaller model, the Pixel 8 from last year. Google has its Pixel 8 on its store for $699 right now, though there are some cheaper deals to be had on other stores and specifically carrier deals where you can get the Pixel 8 for basically pennies on contract at the moment. Contrasting with the Pixel 9 Pro, it starts at $1,000 for the same amount of storage, but is clearly aimed at the highest end portion of the market. Well, first up, and probably the biggest difference here, is the camera setup from both a hardware and a software standpoint. Regarding the former, you're getting a very similar, if not the same, main rear camera and an upgraded ultra-wide on all of the Pixel 9 phones this year, but you're also getting the 5x optical telephoto that adds much wanted versatility to the camera package, as this is the same setup found on the bigger and pricier Pro XL phone. This time around, critically, we have the best camera in the smallest device, which is ideal as you don't want to miss out on being able to pinch really far in and get crisp shots. There isn't a major difference in image quality from what I can see over even last year's Pixel 8, but having that extra reach is incredibly handy. Also, if you're a fan of ultra crisp video, then the new 8K Video Boost hybrid mode is actually really good, and it's a pro only feature, but one that you can absolutely use if you have the smaller Pro model. Unlike other 8K modes on smartphones, this one is using Google's cloud computing and actually nets you better dynamic range and detail in the scene as a whole because of that video boost bit. You do lose a little bit of contrast, which you could realistically add in post if you really wanted to, but yeah, this might be the best 8K mode on any smartphone to date. And while the new 42 megapixel front-facing camera, only available on the Pro models this year, is an upgrade in quality over the previous one, I actually think its biggest improvement comes in the way of extra field of view, for getting more in the frame in selfies compared to the smaller standard model from last year, and also the regular Pixel 9 from this year. That said, those pro software features that were controversially left out of last year's Pixel 8 model are here in the smaller Pro, such as the ability to shoot full resolution 50 megapixel photos, capture raw stills that you can edit however you like after the fact in sort of things like Snapseed and Lightroom with the more latitude you get from the raw file, and then also the ability to pick and force lenses for taking shots, so the camera app doesn't automatically switch when you go from say 1x to 5x. You can actually force the camera to use the lens that you want, even in adverse lighting conditions. These aren't features that I deem absolutely necessary for most people, anyone other than the keenest shutterbug to be quite honest, as the beauty of the Pixel is actually how it automatically adjusts and processes images on the fly. But that added selfie field of view and the long range telephoto are big reasons to go pro this year, and reasons I would go with this over the standard model. But why go for the smaller one? Well, there are a few reasons for that. First up, I know a lot of people who want all the bells and whistles on their phones, but just don't want a huge phone. That can be because they don't want it taking up heaps of room in their limited pockets. It can be because large phones, especially ones with matte backs, are pretty difficult to keep a hold of, and with their busy lives, they don't want yet another easy way to drop their phone. And sometimes it's because people just don't like massive phones, and that's fine too. I happen to think that these flat sides, in particular how Google has done them with the 9 Pro, how they're very subtly curved into the edges of the glass and with the glossy finish, specifically compared to the matte effect that I think is a bit slipperier, they feel better in a compact size and make the phone feel denser and nicer to hold compared to the bigger slabs. I think they just feel almost higher quality because they're less stretched out. And the thing is, in the past, if you wanted a smaller phone, you had to put up with subpar battery life, with worse displays. But this year, the panel is incredible, even at the smaller size. It's sharp, it's fluid, it gets incredibly bright, so it's actually still great for watching films and playing games if you're the sort to do that on your phone. This LTPO OLED is an absolute peach and probably the best piece of hardware on the entire Pixel 9 Pro. And the battery life, even in this smaller Pixel Pro, is rock solid. This is an all-day phone for all but the most hardcore of users. The battery itself has seen a nice little jump in size over last year. And the Pixel 9 Pro, on the busy days, which is how I've been using it over the past couple of weeks doing all these comparisons and reviews, still ends the day with about 30% left in the tank with no Bluetooth accessories connected. I can totally see it being a 2-day phone for lighter users, depending on what you do with your phone. And that is something that we just had to give up by going with the small phone before. Not so much this time around. This is very good battery life. Though to be fair, there are a few things that you still do miss out on by not going for the XL. Firstly, the charging isn't the full 37 watts that Google is offering in the bigger SKU, which is annoying to me. I don't see why they had to limit the charging speed in the smaller model. I don't know, maybe to give you a reason to spend extra money on it, but whatever. This year it's only 27 watts, which is pretty paltry for 2024. And you do get the slightly better battery life and bigger screen on the Pro XL, as is pretty obvious. It's just not a huge leap, especially on that battery life side. So you don't get absolutely everything with the smaller Pro, but I think it's enough to justify calling it a Pro still. It's also $100 cheaper than the XL model, which means that not only can you get your hands on a Pro model for just less money, but also if you opt for the higher 256GB storage option, you'll be paying the same price for the Pro as the half storage Pro XL. So you get double the amount of storage for the same amount of money, which I think is realistically quite a good feature and something that's worth doing if you're the sort to download heaps of games and takes lots of photos. But looking back, it is quite funny to see that this phone, the Pixel 9 Pro, is justified as a compact flagship in 2024, when you consider just how big it is compared to the Pixel 5, especially in how chunky it is, and modern phones are really thick. It feels like the trendy thing of making phones as thin as possible has completely regressed to the point where, I just think it's going the opposite way. I don't mind the fact that phones are getting thicker because, again, it means that the chassis are stiffer so they don't snap or break as easily. There's far more room inside for bigger batteries and for big camera setups that we all really value, so it's worth making them thicker. If I'm going to buy the 9 Pro, it's going to be the standard model. The XL, while cool and great for phablet users, for me, there's not much reason to go for it anymore because you can get everything you really need in the smaller one. Are you a fan of compact phones? And are you a fan of the Pixel 9 Pro or 9 Pro XL? I am more of a small flagship person myself, and I'm sure that opinion is not completely secret. I think this is one of the best looking and feeling phones in a very long time. And the more I've used the Pixel 9 Pro, the more it's kind of grown on me, to be quite honest. I know I ranted a lot about all the things that Google missed out on this phone, and I still stand by those issues that I have with it, but it's just a really nice device. I want to hear your thoughts on this though, so while you're down there in the comments, be sure to hit like if you enjoyed today's content and subscribe to never miss another upload. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I'll catch you later. Cheers.